Gentlemen, DOTr, or Department of Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade, won't be able to join us due to prior commitment. But we have with us this morning the Public Communications Officer for Mindanao Rails, Community Officer 3 of the Mindanao Railway Project Management Office of the DOTr. Let's welcome Ms. Christense Denise Geonzon.
Good morning. Hi. Yes. May I ask the host to share the screen? I'm sorry.
Yes, we can see you. You're beautiful.
Thank you very much. Right, here it is. Good morning, everyone. Maayong buntag sa tanan. On behalf of DOTr Secretary Arthur P. Tugade, as well as Assistant Secretary for Project Implementation Mindanao Cluster, ASEC MRD EHE, we thank the Davao City Chamber of Commerce and Industry for inviting us on your third general membership meeting for us to present to you properly the latest status update reports for the Mindanao Railway Project. Again, I am Geonzon, and I am the Public Communications Officer for Mindanao Rails. And with me in this call is our Project Manager, Attorney Clifton J. Solamo, as well as our Deputy Project Manager, Engineer Neil Gabriel Bonto. Now, I will present to you the Mindanao Railway Project Tagum Davao Digas Segment Status Report. Next slide, please. On this slide, you will find the MRP TDD segments, alignment, and stations. Now, you will first find the Tagum Station, which is the main depot, Carmen, Panabo, Budyang, Davao Station, which is also the satellite depot, Toril, Santa Cruz, and Digos. Next slide, please. Now we move on to the MRP's project fact sheet. Now its contract form is design and build. It'll have a total length of 100 kilometers, a cost of 81.7 billion pesos. Its train sets will be made up of diesel-electric multiple units. It'll have a design speed of 120 kilometers per hour, a standard gauge of 1,435 millimeters, an estimated ridership of 122,000. Its funding will come from a foreign loan agreement, and it'll have 8 stations, namely Tagum, Carmen, Panabo, Budyang, Davao, Toril, Santa Cruz, and Digos. Its main depot will be located in Tagum City, while its satellite depot will be located in Davao City. Next slide, please. Now we move on to MRP's project timeline. Now, under the components, you will first find the right-of-way site acquisition. Now, the right-of-way site acquisition started as early as the first quarter of 2020, and its target completion is on September of 2021. Next, we move on to the Project Management Consultant, or PMC procurement. Now, this started on September 9 of 2020, and its target award date is on March of 2021. Next, we move on to the Design and Build, or DNB procurement. Now, for the Design and Build, it is targeted to be published on March of this year, 2021. Next, we move on to the loan negotiations. Now, the loan negotiations will start immediately after the procurement of the Design and Build. Next, we move on to the detailed engineering design. Now, during this period, the Design and Build contractor will be given 4 months to finalize all the preliminary surveys and detailed engineering design of the said project. And finally, we move on to the construction. Now, the construction period will start after the completion of the detailed engineering design, after which we can proceed with the partial operations, which will be on March of 2020, and hopefully to its final operations on June of 2023. Next slide, please. Now we move on to MRP's implementation status. First, we have the bidding documents. Now, last January 4, 2021, we have conducted the opening of technical documents for the project management consultant. Last January 5 to February 10, 2021, we have conducted the bid evaluation. And last February 11, we have reported to the SBAC, the Technical Working Group technical score. Last February 15 to February 26, we have discussed the legal pass, which is the result of technical evaluation of the Technical Working Group. And last March 9 of 2021, we have also reported to the SBAC the Technical Working Group's final report on evaluation. Now, last March 12, we have again reported to the SBAC the invitation of consultants who passed the technical score for the opening of their financial proposals. Now, on March 16 of 2021, we have conducted the opening of financial proposals as well as the evaluation of the financial proposals. Next slide, please. Now, the second implementation status is the status updates with the regional body. Now, we hosted the 6th Regional Coordinating Body, or RCB11 meeting last February 15 of 2021 via Zoom, wherein the MRP has presented in front of the other local government units as well as other government agency the MRP Phase 1 project status. Next is the LGU partnerships. Now, for this, we have conducted regular coordinating meetings with the local government units, its stakeholders, partners, and property owners. We have also met with the LGUs pertaining to the documents required for the resettlement action plan. We have also conducted census, tagging, and validation in Davao City. And finally, we have retrieved notarized MOA addendums from the LGUs. Next slide, please. Next is the right-of-way and site acquisition. Now, for this, we have regularly coordinated meetings with our stakeholders, partners, and property owners. We have continuously checked and reviewed sketch plans submitted by our contractor, OVE Arab. We have downloaded funds to LGUs handling Rauza, specifically for Tagum, Digas, and Carmen. We have also prepared and drafted notices of taking, as well as requests for donation for all LGUs. We have done appraisal inspections. We have also issued notices of taking, specifically in Tagum, Panabo, and Davao. And finally, we have continuously received document submissions from landowners, and we have accommodated queries of an average of 15 to 20 people per day. Next slide, please. Right. Next on this slide, you will find the MRP's ongoing activities. Now, first we start off with the right-of-way site acquisition. Now, here we have continuously served notices of taking, requests for donation, offers to buy, and offers to compensate. We have also continuously coordinated with other local government units, and we have finally conducted coordinating body meetings amongst other government agencies. Next slide, please. Now, on this slide, you will find the activities that our PMO team has been continuously doing. The photo you will see on your left is of our PMO team conducting its talk to the personnel of their respective LGUs. And the photos you will see on your right is of our PMO team conducting a public consultation. Now, let me just add that the photo you will see on your right was taken before the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. On this slide, you will see additional photos of our PMO team. The photos you will see on your left is of our PMO team conducting on-ground validation for appraisal reports. And the photos you will see on your left is of our PMO team serving notices of taking the respective barangays of their LGUs. Next slide, please. Now we move on to the Mindanao Railway projects, issues, and concerns. Next slide, please. For the first major issue, It is the serious delay by OVE Arup in the submission of documents needed by the Project Management Office to commence the right-of-way and site acquisition, specifically for our appraisal reports, sketch plans, structure plans, subdivision plans, and parcellary plans. Now, the consequences of this is the delay of the acquisition of the right-of-way, and then the delay of the start of the construction. Now, the PMO's resolution to this is to relentlessly pressure our contractor to complete all their tasks. Second is to report their inefficiency to the Asian Development Bank. Third is to terminate their contract. And lastly is to blacklist them. Next slide, please. Second major issue is the delay in the submission of the short list of bidders. Now, the consequences for this is the negotiation for the loan agreement, and finally, the delay of the commencement of the construction. Now, the PMO's resolution to this is to first clarify with the Chinese embassy if they still intend to submit the short list of the design and build contractor. And finally, we also look for other prospect bidders and financing sources. Next slide, please. Now that sums up the latest status update report for the Mindanao Railway Project, Tagum Davao Digas segment. Thank you very, very much for listening. And again, maayong buntag sa tanan.
Thank you very much, Ms. Geonzon. Hope you can join us later for the open forum.
Of course. Thank you.
Now, we go on with the main event. This is another person I met during his roaring 20s. He can tell you the circumstance if he cares. Our last speaker for today is a seasoned print and broadcast journalist, a farmer, and a veteran local government chief executive. He's known for his staunch advocacies to advance the agriculture sector, which led to his appointment as Secretary of Agriculture at the beginning of the Duterte administration. As Agriculture Secretary, he set forth the Department of Agriculture's focus into enhancing agri-modernization and improving productivity of the country's key agri-commodities. In 2019, he became the 7th Mindanao Development Authority chairperson after he was appointed by President Duterte. He pushes for the importance of public-private partnership in order to advance the Duterte administration's overall thrust for Mindanao. He also serves as the President's point man for Bangsa Moro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Secretary Manny Piñol.
Thank you very much, Sir Tony. Congratulations, Dr. Lulu Monteverde and the new officers of DCCI. Let me just make a few corrections. I was not in my 20s when I first worked with you, Sir Tony. I was only 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
And yes, for the information of everybody, it was actually Tony Hero who molded me into a hard knocks journalist that I was for so many years. And my experience in journalism actually prepared me for the tough task of governance. Very simple ang rules sa journalism. Do not write a story when you're not very sure of your facts. And that's very basic in governance. Do not make a decision when you have not gathered all of the facts to give you a correct picture of the problem. My dear friends, I know that I was invited to present in today's DCCI General Assembly meeting the programs of MinDa for Region 11. But I decided to transcend the regional boundaries and give you a wider picture of what we are doing right now in Mindanao in as far as our response to the pandemic is concerned and our efforts to rev up the economy of the region. Let me share with you some slides which I actually personally prepared with the help of my staff And I would like to inform everybody that these are the things that we're doing right now. So today's presentation is all about revving up Mindanao's economy. The COVID-19 pandemic has taught us a very important lesson that in building a sturdy and resilient economy, the nation's growth must be internally driven and not dependent on external factors. The hard lesson that we learned from the pandemic is that the often neglected and derided dying industry of agriculture and fisheries is actually the lifeline which could ensure the survival of the nation. How many times have we heard people say agriculture is dying? But during the pandemic, it was the dying agriculture that actually provided life to a dying economy. The numbers do not lie. While the GDP registered its worst performance since World War II at negative 9.5%, and all other sectors submitted negative numbers, the maligned and often derided agriculture and fisheries industry provided a positive 0.1% growth for 2020. Of course, it's very negligible, but considering the fact that all other sectors posted negative numbers, this is actually a light at the end of the tunnel. These numbers could easily be interpreted to mean the following. Number one, in times of a pandemic or a natural and man-made calamity, the global supply chain could be disrupted. Hence, an economy which is heavily dependent on external factors, i.e., remittances from overseas workers. By the way, did you know that the foreign remittance of our workers actually amount to about 35 billion US dollars every year? Foreign investors and imported food supplies could crumble. Number two, a nation with an internally driven economy and sufficient supply of locally produced goods, especially food, would be able to withstand the debilitating effect of lockdowns and disruptions in the supply chain. Look at what happened. When the supply chain was disrupted, the new craze came into fore. Plantitos, plantitas, backyard gardening, free-range chicken farming. All of these actually were indications that in times like this, people would have to rely on what is available to them immediately to be able to survive. Number three, people may not go to the movies or splash in the blue waters of resorts during a pandemic or a calamitous event, but they certainly will have to eat to survive. Thus, agriculture and fisheries are the reserve fuel to boost the economy. The Mindanao Development Authority now is working with the different agencies of government and local government units to boost production in the agriculture and fisheries sector and ensure that impediments to the region's economic recovery are addressed and resolved. So we're focusing on rural economic development and support to agri-fisheries. We are adopting a bottom-up development approach. Among the areas of focus of MinDa's interventions in coordination with the regional offices of the national government agencies, government funding institutions, and the local government units are, number one, the Mindanao Fisheries and Aquaculture Development Program. We aim to build and develop fish centers in at least 26 major fishing grounds in the region. The fish centers, to be funded both by the Philippine government and the European Union through the MinPad Rice program, will establish post-harvest facilities such as ice-making equipment, blast freezers, cold storage, sardines making machinery, and fish dryers to boost productivity. It will also promote fish cage farming and vaname or white shrimps production in selected areas of Mindanao. Now, let me share this information with you. Actually, ang dami nating isda sa Mindanao. Ang problema, our fishermen would opt not to catch more because of their lack of access to the market. Simple lang naman ang tanong nila. Why would I catch more when the local market could not absorb it? At simple lang ang problema. Walang ice. Walang sasakyan na refrigerated to bring the fish to the market. I was in Basilan about 3 weeks ago. While galunggong in Metro Manila sells at 300 pesos per kilo, sa Basilan, sa Maluso, sa fish port na mismo, dumating na sa kamay ng trader, 70 pesos ang kilo ng galunggong. And I asked, how much does the fisherman sell the galunggong straight from his bangka? And I was told 30 to 40 pesos per kilo. Bakit ang laki ng diferensya? Because of the lack of access of the fisherman to the bigger market. And that is why the fish centers would address this problem. Number 2, the Mindanao Hog Industry Development Program. This will be implemented in partnership with the private sector, which will establish hog breeding facilities in key corn production areas of Mindanao and supply fatteners to LGU-initiated hog raising facilities in ASF-free areas of Mindanao. This program is aimed at boosting hog production in view of the massive devastation of the ASF on the hog industry in Luzon. A big corporation, multinational, has already entered Mindanao. They are in the process of establishing a 2,400 hog breeder farm in Barangay Glamang, Pulumulok, South Cotabato. And they have already started operating a feed mill. Anong implication nito? Well, this would mean that the corn produced by our farmers would have a market. This would mean that our farmers who would like to raise good quality hogs or piglets would have access to those piglets. And this would mean that since ASF is devastated by, or rather since Luzon is devastated by ASF, Mindanao will become a major producer of hogs for the country. Not only for the country, but maybe for the rest of the region. Number 3, the Mindanao Cattle Industry Development Program. This will be implemented with the support of the Australian government. And last week I had a meeting with Ambassador Stephen Robinson of Australia. And this will be undertaken under the BIMP-IAGA Cooperation Program between the Philippines and Australia's Northern Territory. The program will involve the different LGUs of Mindanao, which will establish fattening and breeding facilities. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Government will also play a key role in this program as it aims to become the center of production of halal beef intended to supply the needs of the region and for export as well. In this project, we're adopting a new technology. Hindi na uso ngayon yung rancho. Cattle now are bred and raised in a small area na merong feeding trough at merong prepared feeds na pinapakain sa kanila regularly. So the average weight gain of a cattle being fattened is about 1.5 kilos every day. So in 100 days, they gain about 150 kilos. So right now, BARM is interested because meron silang AAA halal abattoir in Cotabato City, which is underutilized kasi walang baka. And this actually exemplifies the kind of programs and approaches that we in government have been doing for ages. Gagawa tayo ng facility without considering whether there is enough raw material production to actually make these facilities operate 100% capacity. So the Cattle Industry Development Program is a very practical program for us sapagkat ini-involve natin dito ang LGUs. And the LGUs will set up cattle fattening and breeding facilities in their areas, make use of the corn and sorghum being planted by our farmers, and at the same time, maybe create a new industry, the leather industry or the tannery in Mindanao. Number 4, the Mindanao Poultry Industry Development Program. This aims to boost chicken production, both broiler and free range, in the different areas of Mindanao to ensure sufficient supply for the region. This is also a short gestation food production program, which will provide income earning opportunities for the farmers. I would like to emphasize this. Ako personally, even when I was still with DA, I'm not averse to the idea of importing goods. Pero ang aking paniwala na dapat ang i-import lang natin is the total volume which represents the shortfall in our local production. Like say for example, bakit natin ipagpipilitan ang pag-i-import ng manok? Samantalang given the problematic logistical supply chain right now, yung i-import mo na manok from Brazil, for example, from the US, would take about 2 to 3 months bago makarating sa Pilipinas. Samantalang it takes only 27 days to raise a broiler at pwede nang katayin. So ito yung ini-emphasize natin na, there are some things that we tend to ignore. And that is the capacity of our farmers to be able to produce food if only they are given the opportunity and the support to do it. Number 5, the Mindanao Corn Industry Development Program. This aims to establish grain storage silo systems in key corn production areas of the region to ensure stable supply of corn for the hog, livestock, and poultry industry, and also ensure profitability for the farmers. This will be complemented by the sorghum development program, which will also produce feed grains and silage for the cattle fattening and breeding program. Number 6, the Mindanao Vegetable Production Program through area-focused interventions like Imatasula Complex in Bukidnon. Right now, we are identifying about 50,000 hectares of very good production areas for vegetables in Bukidnon alone. Imagine how much vegetables could be produced in that area if this is given preferential attention by our government. All of these short gestating economic and food production programs will be supported by other initiatives like the Green Mindanao Project, which promotes the planting of fruit trees in the upland areas of the region. The Banana Industry Development Program, which seeks greater support to Mindanao's prime export commodity. The Coconut Industry Development Program, which targets the establishment of private processing companies in key production areas. The Bamboo Industry Development Program, which promotes the establishment of bamboo farms and processing facilities in the major river basins of the region and others. To ensure the efficient implementation of these programs, MinDa will organize on Wednesday, March 31, the Mindanao Economic Recovery Facilitation Council, which will be composed of the different sectors of Mindanao. And this council will actually oversee all the programs being implemented in Mindanao, which could support the economic recovery. Let me end this presentation with this message. A nation whose economic policy favors foreign investments and importation over homegrown industries and local production is akin to a tall tree with shallow roots. It will topple over and fall hard at the first gust of a global economic badwind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Piñol. And also thank you to all our resource speakers this morning. But we are not done yet. May I ask all our speakers to turn on your cameras as we begin our open forum. But before that, we would like to have a video, very short presentation of the Davao Samal Bridge project. Okay, earlier we asked the audience to send in their questions, and we will try to address as many as possible. In fact, we have seen a lot of the questions on the chat box, but unfortunately, most of these have been addressed by the presentations themselves. But we have one here which has not been answered yet. This is for Engineer Ivan Cortez. Will there be any open consideration for optimizing the newly created infrastructure spaces with applicable green technology like solar power harvest panels installed along the highways, bridges, periphery, where it is possible? Did you get the question, Engineer Ivan?
Yes, sir, Ton. Nothing is cast in stone yet in so far as the open spaces in the coastal road are concerned. At the moment, we're applying for the titles under the PRA because this is considered a reclamation project, although it's already been reclaimed due to the implementation of the coastal road. At the moment, we're just securing the areas such that we can already plan, do the surveys, and suggest to the mayor what types of projects can be put there. Although the initial instruction really of the mayor is that it will be largely for greening purposes. Greening meaning planting out trees, not really green technologies wherein you can have the solar panels. But as I mentioned earlier, nothing is cast in stone yet. If the private sector deems it good that they also suggest to the mayor worthy projects that must be that might be considered by the city government, then by all means they can already send in feelers to the office of the city mayor, and so far as the utilization of these spaces in the coastal road are concerned. Thank you.
Okay, Corporate Secretary Jennifer Dumlao handed this question. May I ask all agencies, what is their timeline for formalizing communications agreements and compensation for landowners affected by the infrastructure programs or projects? Any of the agencies, in lahat naman tayo sa infrastructure. Timeline daw. Meron bang nakalagay na na timeline sa communications and agreements and compensation for landowners? Let's ask the people in the SIDC connector roads, Samal, Igacos Bridge.
Okay, sir. For the right of way acquisition under the SIDC, we have not started any right of way negotiation as we are still waiting for the final submission of the parcellary survey plan being undertaken by our consultant. So this will be the basis, the technical basis of our negotiation for the technical description of the lot. And this will also serve, the parcellary survey plan will also serve as the basis in the scope of work of the GFIs that we are procuring. The GFIs will determine the market value that we are going to offer to the landowners. So we are still waiting for that. Our work timeline is dependent on the approval of the parcellary survey plan.
Let's ask DOTr representative, communications officer, Geonzon, what is in the Mindanao Railway timeline?
Chris?
So far
Yes.
as
Good afternoon.
for the acquisition.
I guess the best person to address the concern is our project manager, Attorney Clifton.
Is
Attorney?
he around?
Yes, he is.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon.
Good
I
afternoon.
would just
Attorney.
like to clarify the question you're asking about the timeline for right-of-way site acquisition. Is that correct? Sir?
Yes, yes.
Again, the
Well,
timeline is...
may I ask all agencies what is their timeline for formalizing communications agreements and compensation for landowners affected by the infrastructure programs? Let's say your MRP or Mindanao Railway projects, MRP. Ano ang timeline mo in paying the landowners, for instance?
Okay. Sir, as of now, we have already served the notices of taking. Maybe it's about 60 to 70, maybe 70 to 80% complete. As soon as the landowners submit the requirements, we will prepare the offer to buy, then we'll execute the deed of sale. Then payment will be made to the landowners. Our target is to finish the whole right-of-way site acquisition by September of this year, sir. So by September of this year, all the landowners affected by the alignment will be paid, sir.
Okay. How about the big ticket projects for Davao City, Engineer Cortez? Ano ang protocol ninyo dyan? You have a lot of projects that acquired na ba ang mga right-of-ways or properties needed in the projects that you mentioned?
For city government projects, we usually do not recommend them for funding if the land is not yet ready for construction. Meaning, acquisition of land should come first before we provide funding for the construction of the infra project.
Okay, thank you. This is a question for Secretary Manny. Aside from farm to market infrastructure, are there available updated programs that directly equip or empower crop livestock farmers themselves in terms of multiplying their production capacity, profit, yield, and maximize their work effort.
Thank you, Sir Tony. I think I have to clarify that MinDa actually is not an implementing or funding agency. We are a planning, integrating, and coordinating agency. So we do not implement farm-to-market road projects. However, we could help LGUs identify and endorse proposed farm-to-market road projects or any other project for that matter. Whatever funding we provide the LGUs right now actually come from our meager resources and from foreign funding. Like say, for example, the EU MinPad Rice program, we are expecting a fund grant of about 1.9 billion, which we have prioritized to be allocated for the Mindanao fish centers, yung mga facilities sa fishing grounds, and the corn silo storage complexes in the different areas of Mindanao. So ang papel namin actually is just to link up. I'll give an example. Taraca, Lanao del Sur. Ang problema ng Taraca, Lanao del Sur, for ages they have been dependent on the water flowing through the small Taraca River, which flows down from the mountains of Lanao del Sur to the lake. No? So they get their drinking water there, panghugas or na plato, everything. And since kailangan nila ng modern facilities, we enrolled them in the program of MinDa, which is Mindanao Water Supply Program. Again, we don't provide funds. So ginawa namin yung kanilang study. We prepared a study. We assisted them in coming up with a database, no, for the solar irrigation and the water supply, and then we linked them up with our funding partner, DBP. So they were granted a 215 million peso loan by DBP to implement the project. Yun lang po ang papel ng MinDa.
Okay. Sa understanding ko, MinDa is into advocacy and empowerment, incapacitating
Yes.
governments, government
Yes.
agencies.
Correct.
Aside from just strong advocacy,
Yes,
bigyan
in
po
fact,
ninyo ng...
Sir Tony, you're right, no? In fact, sabi ko nga, on March 31, tatawagin namin lahat ng initially mga stakeholders. Plano ko sana one time, big time, no? But ang sabi ng mga staff ng MinDa's, sir, baka masyadong unwieldy, no? So March 31, we will work with the Chambers of Commerce of Mindanao and other offices. We will work with them and ask them to identify kung ano yung mga kailangan gawin para hindi ma-delay o ma-impede yung economic recovery ng Mindanao. Like say for example, etong mga highway patrol at saka mga LTOs na nag-checkpoint sa highways. No? At any given time, they just set up a mobile checkpoint, haharangin yung mga truck. It causes delay. And some of these trucks actually are laden with perishable goods. So ang tanong namin, anong pwede natin gawin para maiwasan yan? No? Is there a way that LTO and HPG could check on the papers and documents of these trucks without necessarily impeding their movement? Because it would affect trade and commerce. So gagawin natin yan sa March 31. After that, papatawag namin lahat ng mga agencies based in Mindanao, pati mga bangko, government funding, financing institutions like DBP and Land Bank. No? And we will ask them, hey, how fast can you release the loans? No? Because hindi naman pwede yung i-announce natin sa media, oh, meron kami 15 billion for loaning to agripreneurs. And then, pagpunta mo sa bangko, aabutin ka ng 2-3 taon bago mo. So, useless. No? So, what we're trying to do now is, hey, tell these agencies, pwede ba i-fast track natin yan? Kasi we need to recover. Yung bangko, LBP, Land Bank, for example, or DBP, we will ask them, right there and then, ma-assess nyo naman kung qualified yung tao o hindi. Tell them outright kung hindi sila qualified. And if they're qualified, fast-track the processing of the papers para makahabol tayo sa ating economic recovery trust. No? So yun lang po ang papel ng MinDa actually.
Okay. Since we are in timelines, no, I am worried about continuity. We know for a fact that realities on the ground is that this administration has started a lot, planned a lot, and they are very promising projects. Some are started, some are in different stages of completion. No? Doon sa continuity, kung sakali mag-change, kasi in reality on the ground dito sa Pilipinas, pagkaiba ang administration na susunod, mai-stop yung nagsimulan ng administration, old administration, di ba? Ikaw, you are a veteran government executive. You've been, kulang na lang sa'yo, maging senador, no? Kasi hindi ka pa naging senador, naging gobernador ka na, at iba pa. Ano yung secretary ka? Anong mangyayari kung mag-change ang administration, which is just a few months from now? Anong mangyayari sa mga plano mo, for instance?
Yan ang talagang reality sa Philippine politics. That's why yung ating agriculture, for example, palaging nababalik sa square one. Because every time a new president takes over, bagong priorities. So what we did actually when I was still PA was to draw master plans for each sector. Tapos na tayo sa cattle industry, dairy na yan. And ang kailangan na sana natin ay yung continue. But more often than
okay. It would seem that we will need a continuing strong advocacy from the private sector para makontinue yung gusto nila ngayon sa ibang administration.
yes, exactly.
Anyway,
10 years. 10 years.
Yes.
At hindi mo pwedeng baguhin, nakapondo na yan, may mga pondo na yan, pwede mong dagdagan, but you cannot change the directions anymore. I think that is what we should do in the Philippines, no? Especially when it comes to agriculture. Because look at what happened. Halimbawa, yung dredging ng Laguna Lake, no, na may pondo na from, I think, the Belgian government. No? Pag-upo ni Pinoy, hininto. And the Belgian contractors actually sued. So we paid them about 1 billion pesos in penalties. And this is a perfect example of the lack of continuity in the implementation of programs and projects, which actually bedevils our development thrust, no? And delays our progress as a nation. And something must be done about this. I agree with you.
in your position now, what do you recommend the people should do in order to achieve continuity?
Well,
Voters, for instance, there will be an election in 2022.
Oh yes, it's something that we have to contend with, Sir Tony, because nasa constitution yan. Natin pwedeng baguhin yan. Ako naman, ang feeling ko para ma-sustain at ma-continue yung mga programa, dapat merong roadmap talaga for each and every program, which should be legislated. No? Kailangan legislated yung mga programa. Say for example, I have long been advocating for a national water management and conservation program. Why am I doing this? Because for so long, ang problema natin sa Pilipinas, binabaha tayo, binabagyo tayo about 3-4 months every year, and we drown because of floods. After a few weeks na walang tubig, walang ulan, biyak na tayo, wala nang drought na. No? And why is that? Because we have failed to come up with a national program to conserve water, to catch water, and to manage our water resources. So if we want this program to be continued, it must be legislated. There must be a legislation that would create a national water conservation and management program. No? The same is true with other initiatives of government. For example, there must be institutionalized programs and legislated programs na hindi pwedeng baguhin
Ang incoming administration, no? Monteverde. Okay, sir. There is a question now for our president, Honorary Consul of Mexico to Mindanao, President Malu Monteverde. What are the economic opportunities and cooperation or potential do you see in establishing a sisterhood with a city in South Africa, for instance?
Okay.
South Africa daw. Meron pa tayong planong ganyan?
Yeah, South Africa has been here for the past 10 years already, and they have a lot of infra projects that they would want to connect with us. They would want to invest here also. And South Africa is not the South Africa that we envision. It's a very progressive country also. And we're not just talking about the South Africa that we know of also now, which is the South African virus variant, no? So it's more than that. There's possible trade relations between two countries. Actually, they put up an embassy in Manila for trade relations and economic activities. So they're looking into the possibilities of having exchanges, especially with our agri. They really like our agri products. So they look forward to agri products as part of the export uh, possibilities or opportunities, but we are still looking into the logistics sector. So from their end, it's infra here, and from our end, it's going to be more of agri products going there. So that's more or less how it's going to be. And of course, probably when uh, travel is not restrictive and the pandemic is almost over, then we can look forward to borderless travels. Of course, tours will be back and the hospitality sector will be restored, hopefully, in due time. So that's it, Sir Tony.
Thank you, Dr. Monteverde. This is for Engineer Rico of the Samal Davao Connector Bridge. When is the loan agreement expected to be signed? What is the reason why it has not been signed yet? Will this become another stumbling block for the implementation of the project? I understand that the owner of the land or the beach resort on which the bridge and the others, the Igacos side of the bridge will land, has filed a case. Is that true, Ms. Rico? We cannot hear you.
Okay.
Okay,
If I
okay.
answer the first question regarding the loan agreement,
Yes.
the 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 loan processes is still ongoing between the Department of Finance and the SIDCA, and this is being evaluated with the help of the China Exim Bank. So they are seeking some clarifications between on the amount of loan to be given by the SIDCA. Actually, in their letter of the ambassador of China, they are giving 100% assurance of the loan funding. But then there's an issue of the taxes, who is going to shoulder the tax. So in replying to that, we are closely coordinating with DOF, indicating therein the possible financing ratio, so that it's usually the government of the Philippines shoulder the taxes. So if they are funding for a 100%, who will shoulder the tax? So we are confirming that the DPWH has allocated a local counterpart or the GOP counterpart, similar to other foreign assisted projects. We allocate GOP to cover the taxes. So we are having an exchange of communication now between DOF, and DOF is the one communicating with China. And then if
Is
I
there a
answer
case filed by anybody?
case, Are
Ms.
you
Rico?
referring to the right-of-way acquisition for the?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
so we have not received any case being filed, but we believe that the right-of-way acquisition is part of any government infrastructure projects. So in doing any infrastructure projects, we are following the Republic Act 10752, and the DPWH has issued a department order or on the guidelines on how to proceed with the right-of-way acquisition. There are different cases wherein first we have to offer, there are three negotiations being done. One is we will be setting a letter offer if the owner is willing to donate. The second is notice if of negotiation. And the third, if the owner doesn't want to negotiate, the DPWH resort to a expropriation. So we are following that procedure, sir. So in our case, as I have said earlier, we have not started any negotiation yet because we have to receive first the parcellary survey plan being finalized by the consultant Aro. So we will use that parcellary survey plan as our technical basis in the negotiation as well as in the procurement of the GFIs who will determine the compensation cost.
Second to the last question, what is the current status of acquisition of the project management consultancy in the Mindanao Railway project?
Sir, may I
Ano
speak?
daw ang current status of acquisition of project management consultancy dito sa Mindanao Rail project?
Sir, for the project
Dito siguro,
management, sorry. Sir,
yes.
for the project management consultant, it's ongoing procurement. The opening of the financial proposal was held maybe last March 16, and we'll have another SBAC meeting by Monday, sir. So in a month or in less than a month, the contract may be awarded.
Okay, this is for DPWH. About 3 years ago, you undertook a road project in Manduk called Garcia Avenue. As a landowner, we were affected by over 3,000 square meters. But up to now, we have not been paid any compensation despite repeated letters and follow-ups and surveys. Can you square this, please, with your commitments?
Yeah, may I answer that?
DPWH?
Yeah. Our representation
Yes,
here,
Engineer.
Davao Chamber of Commerce, is for special projects of DPWH. What the question, it should be addressed to the regional office because the projects was implemented by the regional office. So the right of way for that is they have to go to the regional office, DPWH. So okay, the DPWH officer
Yes.
will be the one to be asked for that because we don't know the details of that right of way acquisition.
May last question pa? May pahabol pa po. Sa pang question. DPWH din po, how come wala pang parcellary survey pero nag-occupy na po ang DPWH and with ongoing works na? Is it not a violation of the private land owners' rights too? Palagay ko, the same, follow-up lang ito. Same.
I think we will not occupy any portion of land if there is no permit to enter. Because
Okay.
we have to secure the permission of the lot owner before we enter.
Okay.
the process.
Okay, thank you very much. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes our third general membership meeting. Thank you to our speakers, Mr. Wendell Ganhinhin, Engineer Ivan Cortez, Engineer Benjamin Bautista, Engineer Lilibet Rico, Ms. Christense Geonzon, and Secretary Manny Piñol. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and let us always stay safe by following the minimum health protocols, ensuring the health and safety of every Filipino. Sabi dito, advice for everyone. In this time of uncertainty, don't believe in everything that you read. Do not allow yourself to be fooled. I was told that masks and face shields are enough to go to a mall. But when I got there, people were also wearing pants and shirts. Immediately, there was a riot of silence, but I can hear suppressed laughter. Marami pong salamat. Oh, picture pa daw. So position yourself for the firing squad.
Thank Manny. Thank you, Engineer Ivan. From DPWH, thank you, and DOTr too.
Thank you.
Position yourself for the shots.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, smile.
Abilis, ah.
Okay, thank you very much, Manny, Ivan, Doc Malu, and everybody else.
Bye-bye.
Let, kailangan lang talaga assure that the
Thank you,
priority
everyone.
projects. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am Engineer Lilibet, thank you.
Thank you for inviting us and giving us this opportunity to know the Davao Chamber. So now I know, even I'm not from Davao, now I know which to to approach when I'm in Davao. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you din po talaga kasi we are now assured that the government priority projects will be delivered. Naging issue lang kasi talaga namin dito is yung road right-of-way acquisitions. And we have been having a lot of concerns kasi nabibring up po sa amin lagi. So that's why we brought it also. DOTr, more or less the same, but we know the scope kasi of DPWH, yung mga previous na national roads na sali, na mga backlog, ganon. But it's really difficult. And for most of our affected, it's really a challenge also, no, to go through. So
Yes,
we hope we can help each other, ma'am.
Looking forward, ma'am, na talagang the support will be given to us by the Davaoeños.
Sige po.
Para mapusto yung project.
Oo nga, kaya nga ito ang aming meeting ngayon para makita namin ang commitments from the government agencies. And we thank MinDa also, the DOTr, no? Na hopefully matutuloy at walang magbabak. Ibig kong sabihin, election year na kasi po. Kaya kailangan we have to have it delivered. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you po. Nice meeting you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you po.